Hi, how are you? It's Simon here. Thank you very much for chiming in here, or tuning in here even, to a live stream on 50s rock and roll guitar. It's a thing that I think is super fundamental, and I'm sure you will enjoy. Give me a shout out to tell me who you are and where you are out there, people watching live. If you are watching the recorded thing, hi there as well. You can grab all the notes that I'm going to talk about over at patreon.com/Simon Morrell. All right, so let's kick it straight off. I've got a busy day today, so we're going to get straight into it. Basically, what I wanted to do is just sort of set instead of just giving you the riffs, kind of give you the context of the riffs and why you're going to be playing the riffs, and just trying to teach you to fish a bit instead of just turning up and giving you the fish. So any questions along the way, please let me know. I'm just going to get straight through it. Okay, number one. The first thing is sort of understanding the sound that you need. So what I've got here is a humbucker guitar, and I've got it on the bridge pickup. I've got an amp turned up a bit, so it's not sort of crazy overdriven, but just a tiny bit of overdrive. If you don't have this kind of amp situation, just get an overdrive pedal and just turn up the volume and turn down the gain, and you'll get that slightly crunchy thing that's a bit louder than it is through the amp without the pedal, and you'll get the kind of sound that you're after. Okay, now understanding how the whole thing works is probably the most important thing. What kind of chords you're going to be playing over and all that sort of stuff. So first up, blues roots of early rock and roll. So if you know 12-bar blues, you kind of know rock and roll. You know it's going to only have, if we're in the key of A, for example, we're going to have the chords A, D, and E in there. And often you'll get this sort of A, which is the one chord, A, B, C sharp, D, E. The one chord is, you know, right? And then you're going to go up to, then back to A, then down to E, D, A. That kind of thing, right? So what we're going to learn how to do is basically play over each of those chords. And what the most important thing, the kind of golden rule, is to always know where you are in the chords, right? So that is the trick. You've always got to know where you are. So like if you're thinking, oh, I'm in A, D, A, E, D, A, E, right? Now, then a whole bunch of those guys, Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and all those guys, took what is basically that sort of 12-bar blues thing, and they kind of made songs around that. So they're not necessarily always 12-bar, but you still have the same elements from blues that you had in the blues, right? So for example, if you think about like Never Can Tell, you get this. Hey Stephen, how are you? So you get loads of C, then it goes straight to G. Right, so you haven't got 1, 4, 5, you just got C, C, D, E, F, G, just 1 and 5 in that song. If you think of like rock and roll music, you have that, just give me that music, and you almost have a 12-bar, but when it gets to the top of it, you're basically playing, if you want to dance with me. You know what I mean? Like there's extra bars at the end, so effectively it is like a 16-bar round. Yeah? Or 14-bar round, rather. 14-bar round. Okay, so that's the basis of what we're going to be talking about. So it's important to know where you are. The next thing is the feel. Now, there are shuffle feels and straight feels in this 50s rock and roll thing. Now, what I mean by that is a straight feel is where the and is halfway between the 1 and 2. So you're like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Whereas a shuffle feel is like a 1 and 2 and 3. Basically, you push the and closer to the 2, all right? So you get more of this. Right? Instead of, do you see with the difference, right? So if you're feeling da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da feels more jumpy. And if you're sort of swaying along, anytime your head is going side to side, it's pretty much swung or a shuffle. And anytime you're like, yeah, then it's straight, okay? So that's something to sort of understand and, as we progress. Okay, so let's talk about the kind of chord shapes you're going to be using in these sort of effectively 12-bar sort of things. Something super common, if you're going to be playing in A, right? E, if you want to dance with me, if you want to dance with me, right? So this is A here. Then you've got D, but instead of playing D like that, you've got the D and the A, this is the 1 and the 5 of the key. Yeah? And then back to doing the same thing. Then E. Right? And there you go. Okay. So that is one kind of thing that you're going to need to be able to do. Now, what you hear often, because A is here, so this is A major. See at the 5th position here? Cycles around this shaped chord here. It's an E-shaped bar chord at the 5th fret. You're going to get in there. And then, of course, you also have the minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic, in the same spot. So what's super helpful is being able to just, if you need the 1, that's an A, and the 5 of the key, 1 and 5, E. That's basically right, being able to do that sort of thing. And then you've got D right here, and then back to A. E, D, right? And then, chucking some simple 7 chords over the top. So you're like, now that doesn't really look like anything if you're not super familiar with this thing here, right? We've got an A. This is a G, C, E, right? Those are the elements of A7, right? So if you have the bass line, and you've got a bass player doing this, and you've got, right? And then D, because this is an A-shaped chord, right? So you've got 7, 5, 7, and then back to 5, 6, 5. Try out A7, yes, please. Yeah, and then, or that one, right? This one, and then D, and then A, A, D as well here, but an A shape, right? And then when you come to the E, E7, D7, A7. So getting a handle on those, you can come from minor to major, which is cool, right? So imagine that. Imagine you've got your, right? Or, right? Then back to A. You could play an E here. This is E7, 4, 3, 4. It's just a D-shaped chord. Then or, and then back to A, right? And then you can fragment those up. You want to split them further down from the triads to dyads, or basically just 2 notes. It's a fancy word for 2 notes. Or, right, for A, you know, D7, yeah, E, D7, A7, right? Okay, so there's a super useful thing in just getting a handle of those little shapes in the same area that you got the rhythm sort of chords is going to be a super helpful thing to you, right? 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 See what I mean? You can hear the rock and roll in that, right? All right, so let's just talk about some of those sort of dyads or double stops. Sorry I'm ripping through this morning, but I just think let's just get to it. If you get stuck on something, ask a question or, you know, watch it again once we're done. We're going to be done in about 15 minutes' time. Okay, so some of those, great to hear. So some of those things that you're gonna have it just in your 50s rock and roll toolbox, right? Probably I'll just run through a bunch of riffs and I'll explain how they fit over the chords, right? So something like 5 and 5, right, on the top 2 strings, right? How many times have you heard that, right? Right? Right, so I think that's the beginning of O Carol, but right? All those sorts of things that are really just based around this minor pentatonic, but add in the major, right? So if you have a major scale on top of your minor pentatonic, use your minor pentatonic, right, from A to A there, and then major, right? Right? Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Everybody learnt this. That is absolutely right, Stephen. So when you hear that, now, so I've gone sort of, that's both major and minor because it's E and A. And then here I've got the 7, G, and a C, so it's like from minor pentatonic. But if you go, and then I've just got this note here, which is a D, which is both in major and minor, but also an F sharp, which is from the major, right? Minor, major. So when you hear those, all those Chuck Berry songs, they kind of generally have a guitar intro, so it'll be like, you know, and then, oh no, right? Right, that's the idea, okay? So that's the first one, really just anything around that 5 and 5. Now, something else you'll notice there, when I went from minor to major, right? So I've got 5 and 5, we're in A, key of A. There we go, into major. Super sweet, right? That is the second one. That. Now, something which is also cool is when you play a major note, F sharp, and a minor note together, right? So give them a bit of a bend there. So I've got 8 and 7, which ding, 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 feels like we're in the twilight zone, but actually it's super cool. Give it a bend, right? So you have 5 and 5. We're over A. Go nice and slow, you can kind of hear. There's D. is obviously the top of E7. And then it goes back to A. Right? And then into E. Right? That's a super common thing that happens. Right? You slide into a note and then you hit the same note as an open string, or even that kind of thing, which admittedly sounds bluesy, but that's where all this stuff comes from, right? So, but if you had like A, and then we had the D, and then you're back to A, right? And then into E, right? And then back to A. And there you've got like what is a really solid riff run around the chords, matching the chords all the time. All right? Okay. Now, that's just 3. There's heaps more. Just think about the chord, you know? Yeah. All of that. Just have a little play and think about the minor and the major. And you play it over this A thing. It's pretty sweet. All right, call and response riffs. Now in Johnny Be Good. Go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go, go. And he goes. Right, if you think about what's happening here, this is an A7, right? It's a D-shaped chord. And you're just coming back into the root there. So you go, go, Johnny, go, go. In the gaps. So a call and response basically means the singer says something and then you respond, right? So go, go, go. Do you see what I mean? So that kind of thing is super awesome. And you can use all of those double stops that we just spoke about. Go, 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 Johnny, go, go. Right? And then put that in as well, all right? So you're adding your riffs, but you're underpinning them with where you are in the tune, right? It's pretty cool. Okay, something else which is super, super rock and roll, great trick, is just run-ups between the chords. So like, let's say we've got a bar, we're just finishing the section where we're playing the A chord. Right, now you'll have heard this before. So in that final bar before you get to the D, we're going to play A, B, C, C sharp, and then into D. See what I mean? That kind of thing. So basically playing an A, going a tone up, and then semitones all the way to hit C sharp, and then when you get to the D, that's the beginning of the next bar. Okay, so you can do exactly the same thing from when it goes from E to A, except you go from A to C sharp. So you go A, C sharp, then semitones. Right, there's A, B, C, C sharp, D. Right, then back down to A. We're going to go to E. Back down to A. Right? So those walk-ups are great. Okay, so that was number 6. All right, then I guess what you've got to think about is how you're going to practice it. How are we going to practice that? Well, first up, the golden rule, which is what I spoke about at the beginning, is you've got to know where you are in the song. So whether it's a sort of a blues-based 12-bar rock and roll, or whether it's like a sort of a song more rock and roll, like I mentioned rock and roll music by Chuck Berry before, where you have like, give me some of that rock and So you have 4 bars of A. You have 2 bars of D. So it feels like a 12 bar so far, right? A. But then we get to E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, A. When you gonna dance with me? Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of extended. So whatever your form is, you've got to know kind of where you are. So whatever your context is, apply these in that context. So like, if you did have that rock and roll music, give me some of that. D, A, E, 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 A, E, A. Right? So being able to jump through those triads in that way, but always thinking where you are in the tune is really the key element. Okay? So that is something that you can easily practice, and there's about 8,000 backing tracks here on YouTube. If you write rock and roll A backing track in YouTube, it'll come up. You can practice along with it, and it's helpful to have it going in the background and be just always aware of what you're doing at the same time of the chord. Hopefully you can find one that has sort of highlights the chord or has the form up, so you know it lights up to A, and then A, D, D. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So that's one way of practicing that. Just really just getting your head around where these little triads are. You know? Yeah? And knowing what element of the chord you're using. So like major third of A, fifth of A, first of A. You know? That's something you can practice, and you can actually practice that along with the backing track. Just try to hit the A. Hit A's whilst the A is happening. You know what I mean? A, 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 A. Right? A. Whilst the A is happening. Then hit D's whilst the D is happening. And then hit, you know, that kind of thing. That's a great way of practicing it, right? And then, so sit back and always, when you want to play like a solo thing or a riff thing, I always think a good way of thinking about it is that play a bit, and then when you need to breathe, stop playing, right? And then play again. So then it will automatically stop you from just spamming notes, basically, okay? So, you know, where you have like, see what I mean? So that there's still space in there, so that you can kind of do. Let's just talk through those riffs. Like that. And then I'm going minor, major, both, minor, major, both, major. Minor, major even. And then that, it just sounds like the 50s to me, that thing. The thing I didn't talk about was unison bends, right? You can do that. It's familiar, right? So you're bending a D to E, hit E. Or you can hit the A there. Yeah, or even in all of those kinds of things whilst the run is going, okay? And that is today's live lesson. Okay, so if you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. I'll answer over the next few days. I wish you a very Merry Christmas, have a great time, or however you celebrate this time of year. And all the best. Thanks very much for watching. If you need the notes, I'm going to put a little tab up. Go over to Patreon, which is on the screen just there. I'll see you later. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.